Welcome to the Best of Markham podcast, brought to you by me, Igor Klibanov from FitnessSolutionsPlus.ca, your personal trainers for chronic conditions. And here with me today is Dr. Laura Rowe from Cornell Chiropractic Center. Laura, thank you so much for being here.
I am happy to be here.
Okay,
Thanks for having me.
my pleasure. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Okay, I am a chiropractor in Markham. We've been here for 25 years now in the Cornell community of Markham. I've got two kids in high school, and I'm a pretty avid runner and cyclist, and generally speaking, down for any adventures I can find.
Speaking of which we're obviously going to talk about later, but I heard one of your adventures is Ironmanning.
Well, I actually don't do Ironman. I don't. I do stuff, and I'm sure you heard this from Cliff, Dr. Redford.
Yes.
But I do adventure races, is what he's talking about. So it is slightly different, but it's more like if you ever saw Eco Challenge or the World's Toughest Race, that sort of thing on TV. Those are the kind of races that I actually really like doing. I have not. I bug him, and I mean, I say it to other people, my friends, but I'm like, I'll retire into Ironman
Yeah, yeah.
because
That's
the stuff I do longer generally. That's all.
yeah. For those viewers or listeners who don't know what that is, can you elaborate on it?
Yeah. So you are on generally speaking, you're on a team of four, and you are in the wilderness, and you are given a map and a compass, and you have to get from point to point, however they tell you. So maybe from point A to point B, or from checkpoint 1 to 2, you are on foot. So you just have to get there using your map and your compass, again, in the wilderness. So you are not on roads or trails. You're just going right through the bush, usually.
Yeah.
And then maybe you have to mountain bike next. And so then you have to figure out how to get from checkpoint 2 to 3, and you're on logging trails or on ATV trails or whatever. I
Mhm.
mean, occasionally there's dirt roads and stuff. And then there's always a water portion, so you're paddling. So either canoes or kayaks, or depending on the race, you're in whatever sort of the local watercraft is. The last big race I did, we were on an island called Rodrigues in the Indian Ocean, and we were using their probably 1,000-pound wooden fishing boats, and we paddled those. Anyway, so you are self-sufficient. It is nonstop. It is first team to the finish line. So you sleep. You have to, and some races are 8 hours long, but some races are 8 days long.
Jeez.
So you have to sleep when you choose to sleep. You have to carry your food. You have to get your own water, usually from whatever sources are, around, and then you purify it. So it's good. I mean, you really do have to manage your emotions, your fatigue levels, your illness levels, your injury, all that kind of stuff, because you have to finish as a team. So
Yeah.
you have to stay together. It's not a relay. You stay together and you manage yourself and your teammates all together.
Good for
And it is, like, honestly, it's incredibly awful,
you.
but it is incredibly fantastic. Like, the for me personally, the worst part of it all are, at least in Canada, are bugs, like
Yeah.
mosquitoes, black flies, deer flies, that kind of stuff. That is by far the worst. I mean, worse than so many other things that are in theory worse, but
I
anyway,
hear you.
it's
How,
excellent. That's where I met Cliff.
yeah.
That's where I met him doing a race 25 years ago almost.
Right, right. How'd you get into that?
Well, I'd always been active, like, my whole life. I ran a marathon when I was in chiropractic school, and that was a one-off. I didn't at that point, remembering that was in 1998. I didn't know anybody who had run a marathon personally.
Yeah.
Um, and so I did it, and I thought I was a rock star, and it was amazing. And and then I'd always still run and rode my bike and that kind of thing. And really, how it was is I had a patient who knew some, or overheard some guys talking in a local restaurant, saying that they needed a girl to do an adventure race,
Yeah.
and but they didn't know anyone, and they had to find someone anyway. So my patient said, "Hey, these guys might," they said my chiropractor might be into that.
Yeah.
gave them my information. They contacted me, and I had been watching Eco Challenge, which was the sort of big deal race, the version of this race that's on TV at least.
Right.
Um, my whole life with my dad and I would watch it, that sort of thing. So when they said, do you want to do an adventure race? I didn't even know there were shorter ones because Eco Challenge was 11 days. This was a 36-hour race, which to be fair is long,
Yeah.
but not nearly 11 days. So anyway, it was just these guys that they needed a girl. So I'm like, sure, I'll give it a whirl.
Yeah.
So I had not really ever mountain biked before. I had paddled a bit, but not extensively, but I was a good runner and I was fit, and, you know, I was outdoorsy enough. Like that wasn't tough for me.
Yeah.
And so we did the first race, we DNF'd, like we did not finish. We didn't finish in time. Like we missed the cutoff, but I was hooked and I thought it was excellent. And so what went from like a one-off race, just sort of for fun, I probably did 3 or 4 more races that summer, and then have sort of racing ever since. I took a bunch of time off when I had kids, but then got back into it, and then just sort of transferred into other stuff, you know, when I couldn't adventure race, because it's a big commitment, time and money and teammate and everything.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, it was completely by fluke that I got into it. And then that just sort of snowballed into other stuff, because you had to train for that. You had to train and be fit for long. Everything was long.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Exactly.
then I started riding longer. I started running longer.
Yeah.
And then when I couldn't adventure race, I did ultra, like trail races. I did long, like running races and that kind of stuff. I did some long bike races. And so, I mean, that's the kind of stuff I just sort of do now, as much as anything. But
I guess it's a natural extension of marathon running, but to the very extreme. No wonder you say you retire into Ironmans.
That's, I mean, I mostly just say that to be a jerk to my buddies, but yes. But it really is like, it's just adventure racing, or, you know, ultra marathoning, that kind of stuff. I just view it differently. Those are more, you know, literally adventures, versus marathon running for me is, you've got a time, you've got a pace, you've got goals, you've got to meet them. And although it's fun,
Yeah.
and it's good and it's rewarding, it's not fun as in it's not an adventure.
Yeah.
Whereas this stuff is more adventuresome. So
Yeah, exactly. Well, fun stuff. Fun stuff. And how did you get into chiropractic?
well, I was always sort of a kid who was fit and liked exercising and that kind of stuff, just for the sake of it. So that was one thing that sort of was one thing. And when I was in high school, I did well in, I did well in school. So I did really well in math and science, that kind of stuff. I always took phys ed, that kind of thing. And so originally I was going to go into math because I was really good at math.
Yeah.
And I have an older sister, and she had gone to Waterloo for math, and, you know, and that was great. And so I was going to go to Waterloo for math. I was accepted. That's what I was going to do. Then I went and saw her one day, and she was working downtown Toronto. I didn't grow up here in Toronto area, but she was working downtown Toronto, and I went to go see her. She was working, you know, in a high rise, and she was in literally, and I don't even know if she really knows this, but she was working in like a material cubicle.
Yeah.
You know, and I, you know, although that was, I just was like, that doesn't seem like that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Like at all. And then I ended up taking a biology course in grade 13, which I had not taken biology. I'd taken physics and chemistry and all the maths.
Yeah.
Biology seemed like a course. I was like, it's not mathy enough. So I took it, and I probably had my best teacher I'd ever had in high school, for me at least. And it was a whole bunch of human physiology. And I went, wow, wait a second, this stuff is super interesting and fun.
Yeah.
You know, and I really liked it. And at the time, and I know this is very long and complicated, but this is sort of how it ended up. And at the time, one of my mom's best friends, her son, who had just graduated from optometry school, came to live with us while he was just starting out.
Yeah.
And I sort of looked at that, and I was like, well, that seems like a much better lifestyle than sitting in a cubicle in a high rise downtown. And so that is what actually started me thinking about, I wanted to get into healthcare. Right. And then the more I looked into different kinds of healthcare, the more I realized chiropractic probably was more my jam. It was dealing with generally, and this is very general, but generally speaking, dealing with people and patients who are a bit more proactive for their health.
Yeah.
I wasn't dealing with life and death.
Yeah.
As a chiropractor, my plan was always to open my own practice. So if I did that, I could set my own hours. I could live my own life. If I was going to have kids, I could decide how I wanted to deal with my kids. So it just was a natural progression for me of really liking human body physiology and function, wanting to help people, wanting a business that was my own, and feeling like I was contributing to the betterment of society versus just making a corporation money.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And I find that amongst health professionals, chiropractors, naturopathic doctors, MDs, pharmacists, etc., the group that comes from the most athletic background is chiropractors. Like you don't really see that with MDs. They're maybe average to maybe slightly more active than average. Same thing with NDs, average to slightly above average. But chiropractors, most of the ones I know are either current athletes, even if they're in their 60s or 70s, or former
Yeah.
athletes.
And we had, like, in my class, we had ex-professional athletes,
Yeah,
we had Olympic athletes, we had tons of varsity, like, US scholarship athlete. In fact, my partner here
yeah,
was a full ride to Syracuse for soccer. Yes, like I was one of the least athletic,
yeah, yeah, exactly.
really,
Yeah, and if that,
yeah. I feel like chiropractors generally, not obviously not all of them, are very active, like, and physically based sort of, people.
yeah, and uniquely so compared to other healthcare professionals.
Yes. Well, yeah.
So part of it, what we're talking is the technical side of things, the chiropractic, but I also want to talk about the business or the entrepreneurship side of things.
Yeah.
It appealed to you not just that you're going to improve, people, but you're also going to have your own business. What appealed to you about having your own practice, your clinic?
Well, I work well with others, but I don't necessarily work well under a boss who I don't think is competent. And at least from all of my friends, or not all of my friends, but many of my friends who work in the corporate setting, often they have bosses or managers that they, don't agree with, or that they perhaps think are not the best. And that wouldn't work well for me. So number one, being my own boss, being in charge. You know what? Every failure is my own.
Yeah,
Every success is my own.
yeah,
And my partner, my business partner, Richard. But nonetheless, it's ours. It's ours. So if we are wildly successful, we did that. If we
yes,
screw up, well, then we screwed up. But we can blame ourselves, and we can learn from that, and
yeah,
we can learn from that and then change. I think sometimes, in a corporate setting, you don't get to do that. You
yeah,
know, and so it really was. I was very, very fortunate as a kid that my dad was an elementary school principal and my mom was a stay-at-home mom. So I thought, for me personally, it was very important that I was around for my kids. So
totally.
I didn't before I had kids, I didn't know what that meant. I knew that I could alter my schedule. I knew I could do whatever, but I wanted to be around for my kids, like, as much as possible. So as it turned out, I brought my kids to work with me every single day from the time they were a week old until they were old enough to not come to work with me anymore.
Yeah,
So again, although that wasn't perfect, clearly that was not perfect. That was, for me, that was really important. They didn't go to daycare, which, if that's what you need to do, that's what you need to do. But I just changed my schedule, and I altered my schedule so that I could, if they needed to nap, we went home, and I live very close to my office. So, we arranged it that way. So they would go home, they learned very quickly. They had to socialize and be a certain way, which is good. And now I was very lucky. My kids were happy and easygoing.
yeah,
But they also learned that you had to act a certain way at mom's office.
yeah,
And so they were around, they were socialized lots. I didn't take any mat leave, which was, good and bad, but
yeah,
that was good. And so it was excellent. And as I've said, obviously, a lot, I like to run, I like to ride, I like to work out, I like all that stuff. So I can work that into my day. And back to parenting, it's like I also got to volunteer in my kids' classrooms. I got to go be a chaperone on class trips. I got to read in their classrooms. When they had special days, I could go. When they were getting awards, I could go. If they had PA days, if they were sick, like, that was all. And that's all what you get to do when you own your own business.
yeah,
Now, maybe not everybody gets to do that when they own their own business. I get that, but at least I can. And so, and it has been excellent. And then all that being said, we are now part of a community and have been part of this community since Cornell, this little area of Markham opened. We've been here. So we've grown up. We've got patients that have been coming for 25 years.
Nice.
And we have patients who didn't have kids, who now I treat their kids who are 20 years old or older. And they grew up with my kids, and they were, they knew me before I had kids. They were with me when I was pregnant, and and so it really is a community here, and so you don't get to do that the same when it's not your own.
Yeah. It's one of the beauties of entrepreneurship, and I can very much relate to that story, because the reason I opened up my own personal training company is because before that I worked two places, one community center, one country club. So I had two bosses. One boss I really liked, one boss I really didn't like. And it's actually, for better or for worse, it's the one that I didn't like that forced me or made me even consider entrepreneurship. Because before
Yeah.
that, I never thought of myself as being somebody who enjoys marketing or sales. Um, I just enjoy biomechanics. I just enjoy, exercise physiology. But
Yeah.
I just hated working for that boss so much that I'm like, let me try it on my own. Let's see what happens. After about a year of really, really difficult time, I started to figure out the marketing side of things, and things started to get better. And now I couldn't imagine working for somebody else, having done this for 15 years now. Um, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, and we had to, I mean, like you, we graduated chiropractic school and we opened,
yeah,
like we opened with no money, with no patients, and, super in debt.
yeah,
and and we had one or two courses at chiropractic school that sort of taught about business, but not really. Like we were very unprepared or
yeah,
ill prepared for opening a business.
yeah,
But again, like I said, every mistake is ours, every victory is ours, and we figured it out.
yeah,
And Richard and I sort of had the opinion that, look, we're both smart, we both can learn.
yeah,
Like both he and I will take any idea from anybody, and we can adapt it and change it to make it work for us or make it our own. Like
yeah,
and that's what we had to do, and, we've had some stuff that works out really well. We've had some stuff that doesn't work out as well, and you figure it out. We've had lots of people work with us, different massage therapists, naturopaths, acupuncturists, that sort of thing. And, and it's just a process, and we're continually growing and hopefully getting better. But again, we're continually growing and getting better for our business, which
yeah,
makes it better,
yeah. One of the things that's so interesting to me about entrepreneurship and about marketing. I have 4 or 5 things that work really, really well for me. Um, but I market very differently than the way other personal trainers market. For example, for me, the best ways to market are, no joke, door-to-door sales, uh,
Okay.
marketing, writing books, and writing so newsletters, books, stuff like that, and public speaking, which are strategies that are borrowed from completely other industries. They don't really do this kind of stuff in personal training, but that's what works for me, and that's what I really enjoy. If I had to sit down in front of a computer and come up with social media content, I would rip my hair out. That's not me.
Yeah.
Never mind, it's not that effective anyways, but some people like it. So I mean that's the beauty of testing different things and seeing what do you like, what do you not like.
When we first opened, because this community was small, we went door to door and delivered flyers,
Beautiful.
like like however many times a year. We like Richard and I would walk door to door delivering flyers, just getting out there. And I have done more talks at the Running Room or places like that than I can even remember, and we did lunch and learns at a bunch of big businesses and corporations. We did gym classes for grade 12, talking about, health and fitness, or about university and choosing your, like we did it all. The stuff
Yeah,
that we really don't, so what we really didn't love doing were like fairs, like health fairs and that kind of stuff.
yeah,
And not that they weren't so effective, but they just weren't, that's just not my jam, you
yeah.
know?
Yeah,
Um,
that's the beauty of running your own business. There's more than one way to the same end goal.
for sure.
Yeah,
And but public speaking, as is probably apparent, I have no problems public speaking. Richard has no problems public speaking.
yeah,
We can talk forever. So
yeah, yeah.
that kind of stuff is fine.
Yeah,
But
same here. It's one of the most enjoyable parts of my business. I've probably
yeah,
done maybe 450 presentations for a bunch of different corporations, groups, running rooms, etc. Awesome. Now, what do you like most? We've discussed what you like most about entrepreneurship. What do you like most about chiropractic?
I would say, honestly, I mean, this is going to be a no brainer, really. But the fact that I get to help people, like, so I can help people who are in acute, immediate, awful pain, and I
Yeah,
can make a difference today. Like, I
yeah,
can make a difference today.
right.
So that is very satisfying. But the other thing that is equally or even more satisfying for me, at least, is seeing patients who okay, they come in and they maybe aren't so healthy. And I'm not just talking about they have back pain or they have neck pain, which is obviously some of it and part of it, but they're just not healthy.
Right.
Like in their life, they're not healthy. And you know, through my influence or through the influence of everybody, the team here, you know, they sort of maybe start to exercise a bit more. They start to walk, and then that morphs into running, and all of a sudden they're running marathons. You
Yeah,
know, and again, and I tell everybody, it's like, look, you don't have to run a marathon. A marathon's irrelevant. It's not that. It's just that is a measure. That's just the thing that you can talk about.
yeah,
But seeing people go from less healthy to more healthy with basically from my influence or from everybody's influence here is super satisfying, like seeing a change in their sort of attitude about things.
yeah,
But obviously, you know, obviously getting people out of pain or having people sort of change their day-to-day activities so that they can stay that way is really, you know, learning, teaching people and sort of figuring things out.
yeah,
But it's, you know, being a chiropractor is just fun to me too. Like
yeah,
it's just fun because it's, you know, I'm working with people all the time. I like my patients. It's fun.
yeah.
They're coming in. It's different people all the time.
So,
You know, and I see people, you know, I've seen people for 25 years, you know, which is neat. You
yeah,
know, you know, people come and go, but there's lots of people who are still here, or people will come back 10 years later because they moved and then they moved back, you
yeah,
know, and like, you know, I didn't see another chiropractor. I just didn't like anyone, or you know, I had this chiropractor, but I knew when I came back here, I was coming back. Like that's fun and that's neat to me.
yeah, yeah. Beautiful stories like that, and I can totally relate in terms of influencing somebody to get better. As I mentioned in the intro, my specialty is chronic conditions. So if somebody wants bigger biceps, that's not us. If somebody wants to run 100 meters faster, that's not us. But if somebody wants to reverse hypertension, type 2 diabetes, osteoporosis, that's us. Uh,
Right.
somebody wants to reduce joint pain. Well, I just wrote a book about osteoarthritis. Uh,
Okay.
that's the stuff that's really, really exciting to me. Not just improving their quality of life, but in some cases, literally their quantity of life. Uh,
Yes. Changing their life.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Not just their health span, but also their lifespan. Uh,
Yep. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I can totally relate to that. What obstacles have you encountered in your time as either a chiropractor or a clinic director, an entrepreneur?
I mean, there's always. I mean, certainly COVID had an impact
Yeah,
for us because we were forced to close for a very short time, and then it was emergencies only. You
yeah,
know, so that had an impact in the short term for us.
right,
Um, it didn't. It in the end, it didn't. I don't think hurt our business. It just changed our business.
right,
So for a few years, like we are not only a sport chiropractic clinic at all.
right.
At all. We are just a community chiropractic business that, you know, there's kids, there's older people, there's everybody all ages and all athletic levels and
Yeah,
whatever. However, we do have a fairly large sport or athletic focus
yeah,
just based on Richard and myself, who are athletes.
yeah,
And what we do, we just attract certain things, obviously. And, you know, and the community that we're in, sort of the age group we're in, we have lots of patients who are, you know, high-end professional actually athletes or national level or provincial level athletes, or they're on their high school teams or they're on rep teams. Plus we have people who are learning, you know, learning to run, learning to race or do things, or they're weekend warriors, or they used to be anyway. So we have a lot of people who are athletic.
mhm,
So when COVID was here, that meant there were no races, there were no games, there were no practices,
right.
there were no tournaments, there was nothing like that. So that impacted a certain level of our or a certain portion of our patients because those people weren't getting injured, they weren't getting hurt, they weren't tight, they weren't even participating, you
Yeah,
know. So that changed that was different. What changed then is all of a sudden everybody's working from home.
right. Yeah,
So everybody's working from home, which means number one, not only do they have really crappy setups because they weren't expecting, they didn't used to work at home. So now they do. And so they've got bad setups. So their posture's bad. They're working from their bed. They're working from their couch. So we ended up with more patients with sort of chronic postural issues.
Mhm.
Plus now we have people who work from home so they can just come during the day.
Yeah.
They used to commute, Markham's a commuter city.
Yeah.
So they used to commute downtown, but now they don't commute anymore. So now they can come at noon. They can come first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
They can come at 2 p.m. So that actually opened up a whole world of patients to us. So although an obstacle, it actually just changed it a bit.
Yeah.
And then the good thing for us is once sports started up again, we still had the patients who were athletes
Yeah.
who are competitive athletes. And then we, tons of people still work from home. So then there's still those people who can come in, but also, most people now, hopefully, have fixed up their workstations at home. So they're not quite so, they're not working from the couch anymore quite as much, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, other obstacles, like I think when we very first started out, and this is a distant memory, but when we first started, chiropractic was deregulated with the government.
Right.
So it was only just a partial coverage anyways here in Ontario. But when it was a big news, so everybody all of a sudden thought that they were going to have to pay so much money to come to the chiropractor, which really it was $10 that the government covered anyway. So it really didn't impact them at all.
Yeah.
But that was the thing, like that changed how people sort of viewed things. Oh, well, how come it's being deregulated? That sort of thing. But otherwise, obstacles, I mean, we moved, we went from one location where we were renting to we bought the location we're in now. That was 15 years ago now. So that's always a big change.
Yeah.
But overall, we, just regular obstacles, like, you have ups and you have downs. You have, we have massage therapists that work with us, naturopaths, so people come and go.
Right.
In the end, it's Richard and I who are the face of Cornell Chiropractic Center and will always be. So it's finding, people that work with us who sort of fit into our, what we want for Cornell Chiropractic Center and the healthcare team that we have. So, it's always sort of challenging finding people that are a great fit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But overall, we sort of take it as it comes. Nothing's been, insurmountable at all.
Yeah, exactly. Where there's an obstacle, there's also an opportunity.
Yeah.
And what are you working on that's right now that's exciting to you?
Well, right now in terms of like at work,
Yeah.
in general, like we are always sort of learning and taking courses to try and improve our diagnostic ability and our ability to treat patients with things that we maybe don't see. Richard, the other chiropractor, Dr. Alexander, he was just at a concussion course over the weekend. Sorry. So he can be more, we can be more of a center for dealing with patients with concussions, which, as we all know, that's big right now. People are sort of recognizing them and realizing that there's something that needs to be treated and dealt with, not just, oh yeah, you're good, head back in, and we are, we're currently, this isn't a challenge, but we're currently just looking for another massage therapist. Well, so it's, again, as I said, it's always a challenge to find somebody who's the right fit with the right sort of attitude and personality. Not that they have to be my personality or attitude by any means, but sort of fits in with the correct, is a good addition to the team.
Yeah.
Really.
I totally get it. I mean, when I hire new staff members, the amount of interviews I have to do to find the one that I want to hire, like I sift through maybe 40, 50 resumes, 40 to 50 resumes turn into about 12 to 15 interviews. And those 12 to 15 interviews, I find one trainer that I'm happy to bring onto my team. So I totally get the challenge of hiring and recruiting.
And then you know what? And it still might not work out. And then you're like, oh, all right,
Bad hires that they were fantastic during the interview and then such a dud as an actual staff member.
And it happens. I mean, again, once you've been doing it long enough, you're like, okay. We know that that's a possibility. So we just gotta, you keep trying and you keep going.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't take as much out of you. And since this is, after all, a Best of Markham podcast, what's your favorite business in Markham besides your own? So it could be a restaurant, spa, carpenter, lawyer, anything.
I would say the best veterinary clinic would be Wellington Veterinary Clinic.
No doubt about it.
Pardon?
No doubt about that.
Uh, I would say for me, the gym that I go to Markville Fitness.
Awesome.
I think that's the best gym and best bang for your buck. And best fitness, I would say Cycle Bar for
Oh
indoor
yeah.
spinning.
No surprises there either.
No, I know. I also instruct there I feel like you know that, but I
Yeah,
am one of the instructors there too. So,
yeah,
so
yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's super fun. Like that's just as an aside, that's just a super fun atmosphere. And it's just a fun thing for me to teach and for people to attend classes to for indoor spinning. So
That's awesome. In the not too distant future, I'm actually going to interview Valso as well. Uh,
fantastic.
yeah, yeah. And last question is, how can our viewers or listeners get in touch with you?
Oh, well, you can't now. I don't know if do you post anything or is this all just me telling you?
It'll be in text as well.
Okay, so you can call my office. Do you want the number or you'll just post that?
Yeah, let's give us the number and I'll post it as well.
Okay, 905-472-1225. Or you can go to our website, which is markham-chiropractor.ca. And you can go online. You can read all about everybody who's here. You can read about our business. You can also book online, right on the website if you want to. Or you can always send us an email at Cornell Chiropractic Center, which is very long, I know, but it's exactly how it sounds. Cornell Chiropractic Center at gmail.com.
That's perfect. And I'll have everything in the show notes as well. Laura, thank you so
Fantastic.
much. I really appreciate this interview.
Well, thank you for having me.
My pleasure.